Violence and legislative attacks on LGBTQ plus lead the HRC to declare a national state of emergency.
These aren't isolated. We can see a pattern, and the pattern has really been building. And I think it's something that we're going to have to continue to monitor very closely going into the end of Pride Month.
Sam Jones is with the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project. The project found anti-LGBTQ plus mobilization in the U.S. increased more than 4 times from 2020 to 2021. This year's incidence of political violence targeting that community already exceeds the total number of attacks reported last year. The Proud Boys and Oath Keepers, some of whose members stormed the Capitol on January 6, are some of the same groups targeting LGBTQ plus events.
Who brought the pedophile?
Earlier this month, authorities say Proud Boys members showed up at a drag queen story hour in San Lorenzo, California, shouting transphobic slurs.
These people should be put to death.
That sentiment echoed in Texas, but this time in a sermon at a church outside of Dallas.
They should be lined up against the wall and shot in the back of the head.
Right. Extremism researchers say disinformation and a wave of legislation targeting the LGBTQ plus community is fueling the rise in attacks.
Through the rest of the year and going into the midterms, where I think this is just going to be one among multiple issues where far-right groups like the Proud Boys and others are going to be trying to ramp up tensions and ultimately possibly escalate violence.
Well, less than a month since issuing a travel advisory for LGBTQ plus individuals who might plan to visit Florida, the Human Rights Campaign, the nation's largest LGBTQ plus advocacy group, has issued a state of emergency today for the LGBTQ plus community. Across U.S. state legislatures, at least 417 anti-LGBTQ plus bills were introduced in roughly the first quarter of 2023, a new record and twice the number of such bills introduced all of last year, according to the American Civil Liberties Union data. They include pronoun refusal laws, forced student outing laws, anti-drag bans, and don't say LGBTQ plus laws. The HRC has insisted it will not back down from attacks on the LGBTQ plus community, saying, quote, LGBTQ plus people nationwide will not be erased, not now, not ever, end quote. Interesting from my standpoint in terms of declaring a state of emergency. I think, to be honest, it is more symbolic than action-oriented, but the symbolism is, I'm sure, what the HRC is trying to establish. This comes right on the heels of Georgetown Law Center issuing the advisory, the emergency advisory, about their concerns about gun violence in the month of June at Pride events. They've issued a statement saying that we are in a heightened awareness of gun violence potential at Pride events this month because of states like Florida that has allowed open carry and non-registration laws, et cetera, that passed in this session. The one last thing that I would say that's interesting, I applaud, frankly, Queer News Tonight, showing Steadfast Church in Texas, where the pastor there says they should be lined up against the wall, facing the wall, and shot in the back of the head. Now, overwhelmingly, Americans do not support that voice. But those that are on the fence of violence against LGBT, they should listen to those kind of voices, because Proud Boys, Homefront, other organizations, that's where the fueling of that voice at Steadfast in Texas is coming from. And the overwhelming majority of Americans should stand up with the LGBTQ community this month and say, that's unacceptable and that's un-American, and we won't stand for it.
Well, on July 1st, the first day after Pride Month in Florida, if you want a gun, you can go right on the street and get one on demand.
On demand.
And what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, this past weekend was Wear Orange weekend for gun violence awareness, and as I was here a week after I was on Hollywood Beach when there was a mass shooting that I was 1 hour removed from, and this morning I woke up.
You were at the beach.
I was riding my bike on Hollywood Beach 1 hour before that happened.
Promenade.
On the promenade, yes, at 1 hour. And I went to an event on Sunday with the Circle of Brotherhood that was held in Miami, in an area that is, of course, riddled with gun, violence. But I want to point out again, just on the news story that was just on here, we're talking about arming people that are not, that are not just here to, have random gun violence. They're arming people like the Proud Boys who are terrorists. The word up there was extremists again. They're terrorists. They're terrorizing our community. They're terrorizing. They're terrorizing the Jewish community. The Latino Black community. Women's rights advocates, and we're now giving them more guns. So we're setting up a system here in our country where we're arming people that are not afraid, as we saw on January 6th, to use weapons and to use all means necessary to get what they want.
Open
so
season.
What do we think is going to happen?
Why aren't we having more conversations about us as a community learning how to defend ourselves? That these conversations need to be happening right now.
Yeah.
We need to learn how to protect ourselves if we do know we're under attack. We do feel it. Why don't we know where to go to protect ourselves? Where can we take courses? Where can we learn how to protect ourselves? Where can we learn how to control our firearms if we need to get them ourselves? It's getting to that point. We have to stop running from it and actually acknowledge that we need those conversations.
To me, to your observation, I still have hope that we're going to back off the ledge that we're at.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why our activists don't talk about the challenge that you put in front of us is that we're still hopeful that it won't come to that.
You say hopeful, I say unrealistic.
Yeah,
the woman that I met at this event, she said, my parents were from the Holocaust, and she said, they started with banning books, and she said, this is a story that can repeat itself very easily. But I have a question for you, because you were at Gay Days this past weekend, which is a celebration, we're okay to celebrate from time to time. But was there a conversation about like people that were coming from out of state to this event? Like, were they apprehensive? Did you hear any chatter, or was it just a celebration?
It's funny. We didn't discuss.
No.
You were going to ask me this. Very strategic question. In the circles of the gay male, predominantly white circles of events in Orlando, there was no conversation, no conversation of the politics. The pageant, the drag queen pageant, there was lots of protest conversation, costuming, etc. You know where there was uproarious anger was at Girls in Wonderland. The women it was breathtaking to me. It was protest. We're having a great time. It's a party, but there was protest. But I have to say to you, other than that, it wasn't.
I'll say this, as a gun owner, lawful gun owner, not a crazy extremist or anything, and this is just my view, I'm speaking for myself here on this, I do think that people should buy guns. I do think that we're at a point in history right now where no one's going to defend us right now, and we're not going to have a federal government in 4 years that will be able to defend us. So me as like a black male, but also as a queer person, I feel comfortable having a gun to protect myself, not from no government or anything. You can't beat the government, but from individuals who may take it upon themselves.
The pastor at Steadfast Church in Texas.
Right, or people like they killed the I forget the name of the individual in Georgia, chased and shot with a shotgun. I assure you, with me, will not be happening.
Yeah. Wow. We are Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only live daily LGBTQ+ evening news show from Happening Out Television Network. In the model of PBS and NPR, we educate, inform, and entertain by supporting the 10 pillars of the LGBTQ+ community, with more than 100,000 a week watching on Roku, Apple Television, and other channels. To keep the stories going, we accept donations with 100% transparency. Stay updated and live authentically with Queer News Tonight.